They mocked the name, hated the appearance, and believed American food had nothing worth defending. Then one plate of biscuits and gravy forced an uncomfortable question. How many opinions about America were borrowed from people who had never truly tasted it? What happens when the meal you ridiculed becomes the one you cannot stop eating? For these European visitors, the first bite did more than change breakfast. It exposed how easily confidence can be built on a lie, the biscuit betrayal. For years, many Europeans had heard American food described through the same tired collection of images: oversized portions, fast food counters, plastic cheese, and meals supposedly designed with more enthusiasm than refinement. By the time they arrived in the United States for the 2026 World Cup, some already believed they understood the entire country's cuisine without having tasted a proper American breakfast. Then biscuits and gravy appeared on the table, and that confidence began disappearing faster than free samples at a crowded warehouse store.
Let's get a big chunk of this.
The highly requested biscuits and gravy. Let's see what this is all about. This is my first time trying it. It does not look very appetizing. I'm not gonna lie to you, like, that doesn't look appetizing. Here we go.
Good luck.
Wait a minute.
The name had done most of the damage. In Britain, a biscuit is usually crisp, sweet, and perfectly comfortable beside a cup of tea. Across France, Italy, and Spain, breakfast often leans toward pastries, bread, coffee, fruit, or something light enough to finish before the morning commute. Hearing that Americans pour sausage gravy over biscuits therefore sounded less like a recipe and more like a misunderstanding that nobody had bothered to correct. Yet the first bite revealed how badly the translation had failed. An American biscuit is warm, soft, buttery, and sturdy enough to hold a thick layer of peppered sausage gravy without collapsing into paste. The gravy carries the richness of milk, browned meat, black pepper, and pan drippings, while the biscuit absorbs everything like a tiny edible mattress designed specifically for comfort. It may not pose elegantly for a Paris cafe photograph, but it understands its job, and it performs that job with the confidence of a pickup truck climbing a muddy hill.
If you love biscuits and gravy, you have to try these portable biscuits and gravy breakfast bombs. They're perfect when you're busy in the morning or on the go.
We call this bread in the UK.
We are Brits in America, specifically Bend, Oregon, and we're trying biscuits and gravy for the first time ever. As you can see, we've already dubbed in, but we want to show you guys what we think. Let's go.
You should feed me.
I'll feed you. It does not look very appetizing at all. Like,
And you guys said that beans on toast looks bad. This looks worse than beans on toast.
That discovery mattered because it exposed a larger problem. Much of what Europeans hear about American food comes through viral clips, exaggerated headlines, and jokes built around the most excessive examples available. A giant burger photographed for social media becomes evidence against an entire national cuisine, while ordinary regional dishes rarely receive the same attention. Nobody builds a dramatic headline around a flaky biscuit, a bowl of gumbo, or a plate of slow-cooked barbecue prepared by a family that has guarded the recipe for 3 generations. Once visitors actually eat in America, the picture becomes much richer. Food here is generous, direct, regional, and often deeply connected to local history. Southern breakfasts were shaped by farming communities and long working days. Texas barbecue can take half a day to prepare. Louisiana cooking carries French, African, Spanish, Caribbean, and indigenous influences in the same pot. New York pizza, Kansas City ribs, Maine lobster rolls, and New Mexico green chile hardly belong to one simple category. Europe has extraordinary food traditions, and nobody needs to deny that. However, America offers a scale of variety that can make an international food hall look underprepared. Within one road trip, visitors can move from smoked brisket to Cajun seafood, from diner pancakes to Mexican-American street food, while every region insists that its version is the one worth defending at Thanksgiving. By the time the plate of biscuits and gravy is empty, the embarrassment is easy to understand. The food they had mocked was warm, filling, balanced, and far more carefully built than its appearance suggested. Some may have arrived expecting American cuisine to be loud and careless, only to discover that it can be comforting, complex, and remarkably memorable. The World Cup may bring them for soccer, but breakfast begins changing the story. After enough meals like this, returning home starts to feel slightly inconvenient. Smoke changed everything. The next American food lesson does not arrive quietly because barbecue announces itself long before anyone reaches the table. The smell drifts across a parking lot, slips through an open car window, and follows hungry World Cup visitors with the determination of a golden retriever that has spotted an unattended sandwich. After years of hearing that American cooking depends on shortcuts, one afternoon near a real smoker is enough to make that story look embarrassingly incomplete.
Today we're trying what people say is the best barbecue food in the whole of Texas. Come with us to Terry Black's, an institution to smoked meat. These guys are selling 3 tons of brisket a day. That's 400 cows. This guy's like, we've got so much brisket, we've even got a brisket wall. This should be in a museum. Inside you've got 3 cutting blocks, each with their own butcher. And we're kicking things off with the world famous short rib. Where are they sourcing this from? Godzilla's chest. You bite into this thing, it's so soft, it's like jelly.
We're at HEB trying some proper Texas barbecue. Have a look at this.
Wow, this is nice. This is good food. You know it's good when it just falls off a bone. Look at that. Wow. That is gorgeous.
Look at all this food. You've got the ribs, we got the sausage, we got the brisket, mac and cheese with bacon, the coleslaw, the jalapenos, the bread. Let's try it. I've never had mac and cheese with bacon. Oh, it melts in your mouth. Coleslaw.
American barbecue is often misunderstood in Europe because the same word describes a completely different activity. In Britain, Germany, or the Netherlands, a barbecue commonly means grilling sausages, burgers, or skewers over direct heat during a warm weekend. The food may be excellent, but the cooking usually lasts an afternoon rather than most of a day. Across the American South, barbecue can involve smoking large cuts of meat for 10, 12, or even 16 hours at low temperatures. That is closer to an overnight shift than a casual cookout. This patience explains why visitors become attached to the flavor so quickly. Smoke does more than sit on the surface. It moves slowly through the meat while fat softens, connective tissue breaks down, and a dark crust forms around the outside. Americans call that crust bark, which sounds slightly aggressive until it becomes the part everyone secretly reaches for first. A properly cooked brisket can bend over a finger without falling apart, while the juices remain inside instead of flooding the cutting board like a broken garden hose.
I swear we have something in South Africa that tastes exactly like this. Kind of like salami. Sweet. It's good. It's definitely nothing like South Africa.
How big is it?
Bite. First bite, man. That's your first ever bite of Texas barbecue. What do you think?
This right here is what I call barbecue. I've never had Texas barbecue until today, and let me tell you something. Hutchins Barbecue in Frisco, Texas is the one. Usually this line is out the street, but we walked straight up. They still gave us a little sample of the jalapeno cheddar sausage. Y'all, it melted in my mouth.
The scale of barbecue culture also feels unusual to Europeans. Texas alone covers roughly 695,000 square kilometers, making it larger than metropolitan France. A state that large has room for arguments about wood, sauce, seasoning, and which town deserves the final word on brisket. Central Texas favors simple salt and pepper seasoning and post-oak smoke. Kansas City is known for a wider range of meats and thicker, sweeter sauces. In the Carolinas, pork takes center stage, while sauce preferences can change after a few hours on the highway. Those differences matter because they reveal something the usual criticism of American food misses. The United States does not have one barbecue tradition copied everywhere. It has regional loyalty strong enough to turn dinner into a friendly constitutional debate. Asking whether sauce belongs on brisket can create the same tension as mentioning college football at a family reunion, except everyone eventually calms down when another tray of meat arrives. For World Cup travelers, this becomes more than another large American meal. They are tasting time, local pride, inherited technique, and the stubborn belief that good food should never be hurried simply because people are hungry. Many European cuisines are praised for protecting tradition, yet American pitmasters have been doing exactly that for generations, often without receiving the same international respect. That may be why the reaction feels almost apologetic. Visitors who once dismissed American barbecue as oversized grilled meat discover a craft that requires discipline, memory, and remarkable control. By the time the brisket disappears, the old jokes about American cuisine begin sounding less clever. The smoke has already answered them. Chicken changed sides. European visitors may arrive in America believing fried chicken is simply fast food wearing a louder jacket, Yet the first properly cooked piece often changes that opinion before the napkin has even unfolded. The surprise comes from discovering how much care hides beneath something that looks so casual. Crisp skin, seasoned flour, hot oil, juicy meat, and a spice balance strong enough to remain interesting after the first bite all have to work together. Miss one step and the whole thing becomes an oily paperweight.
Gotta break them on something. And it's gotta be bumping. City of Compton.
It's where it takes place, so when that show attention, mop with the dog pound.
Wow, wow, wow.
So we made it to Harlem and we're at one of the most iconic chicken joints in all of New York City. Welcome to Charles Pan Fried Chicken. This spot is ran by Chef Charles, who's been living here in Harlem and selling chicken on the corner since the 1970s. This guy is a living, walking legend. They go through 13,000 pieces of fried chicken here a week.
Good?
Look at that. That's a good bit of chicken, man.
Yummy.
Let's try one of these wings.
Are these spicy?
Hopefully they're not too hot. Otherwise Shana won't be able to eat it.
Real good.
Oh man.
Spicy? Good.
Right, the perfect level.
Nice.
That balance explains why American fried chicken can become so addictive. The crust creates a sharp crackle, while the meat underneath stays tender and moist. Salt and seasoning reach beyond the surface, which means the flavor does not vanish once the crispy edge is gone. Add hot sauce, honey, pickles, or a warm biscuit, and the plate begins operating like a Southern family reunion where every relative has a different personality, but somehow ends up singing the same chorus. Europe certainly has excellent breaded meat. Vienna built a global reputation around schnitzel, while Milan has cotoletta, and France has its own long tradition of pan-fried cutlets. Those dishes are usually thinner, flatter, and more restrained. American fried chicken arrives with bones, folds, ridges, and enough texture to make every bite slightly different. A schnitzel may sit neatly on the plate like it has reservations at the opera. A Southern drumstick looks ready to tailgate before kickoff, and that difference captures something important about American food culture. The United States turned fried chicken into regional language rather than a single recipe. Nashville hot chicken developed within the city's black community during the 20th century and became known for cayenne-heavy seasoning brushed onto the crust after frying. In the Carolinas and Georgia, cooks may lean toward peppery flour coatings and simple brines. Korean-American restaurants later added glossy sauces and extra crisp techniques, showing how quickly the country can welcome an outside influence and make room for a new local favorite. That flexibility is something foreign coverage often overlooks. American cuisine is regularly portrayed as careless excess, yet fried chicken demands temperature control, timing, and experience. Oil that is too cool leaves the coating heavy. Oil that is too hot burns the outside before the center is ready. A good cook manages both with a calm concentration of someone parallel parking a pickup truck, while three relatives offer completely different instructions. The cultural appeal goes further than flavor.
Let me put you on to one of my favorite hot chicken spots in all of LA. This is the Red Chicks. This is their Culver City location. You gotta pull up here for their deals. They got $2 tenders every Thursday all day long. And they're known for having the crunchiest tenders in LA. And they have some of the best sauces. And they don't...
What is the best fried chicken in America? I'll go try it.
Honestly, I think it's Dave's Hot Chicken.
Let's go! Everyone has been telling me, but you're the first person to recommend.
Really?
Yes. Why do you like it so much?
I think the flavors are just so good and they have like a taste for everybody.
Fried chicken belongs equally at church picnics, roadside counters, family tables, sports gatherings, and neighborhood restaurants. It can be inexpensive and familiar, yet people still argue passionately over brines, spice blends, cooking fats, and whether the best piece is the thigh or the wing. That kind of debate only happens when a dish has become part of people's lives rather than a product they happen to buy. For World Cup visitors, the realization can feel slightly embarrassing. The meal they expected to be greasy and ordinary turns out to be crisp, carefully seasoned, deeply regional, and far more satisfying than the jokes suggested. Afterward, the old criticism of American food begins sounding like commentary from someone who watched the game from the parking lot. By then, the Europeans are no longer asking why Americans love fried chicken. They're wondering why nobody at home warned them that one piece would never be enough. Pizza broke the rules. American pizza creates a special kind of confusion for European visitors because many arrive believing the argument has already been settled. Italy invented the modern pizza tradition, Naples protects its identity with enormous pride, and a classic Neapolitan pie is usually small, soft in the center, lightly topped, and cooked very quickly in a fiercely hot oven. That history deserves respect. However, the moment World Cup travelers meet a proper New York slice, the conversation changes from ownership to appetite. The first surprise is the size. A typical New York pizza is often around 18 inches across, which gives one folded slice roughly the footprint of a school notebook. In Naples, a whole pizza commonly belongs to one person and arrives as a complete meal. In New York, one slice can function as lunch, a walking companion, and a temporary shield against wind coming between downtown buildings. Americans looked at pizza and decided it should remain portable, even after growing large enough to require architectural planning. That shape explains part of its appeal. The crust stays thin enough to fold, firm enough to support the toppings, and chewy enough to avoid becoming a cracker. Tomato sauce brings acidity, melted cheese adds richness, and the brown spots on top provide the slightly salty edge that keeps each bite from feeling heavy. Folding the slice is practical, but it also concentrates everything into one warm channel, which may explain why people finish it before remembering they were supposed to share. European visitors often hear American pizza dismissed as an oversized copy, yet that criticism ignores what immigration did to the dish. Italian communities brought pizza-making traditions to the United States in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Then American cities adapted them to local ovens, working schedules, ingredients, and customers. New York developed the wide, foldable slice. Chicago built deep dish pizza with a tall crust and generous layers. Detroit created a rectangular style with crisp, caramelized cheese around the edges, originally baked in heavy industrial pans. That is where American food culture becomes difficult to reduce to a joke. The country does not simply import a recipe and preserve it behind glass. It gives the recipe a neighborhood, lets several generations argue over it, then sends it back into the world wearing a completely new jacket. The process resembles jazz. The original structure remains recognizable, but improvisation becomes part of the identity. The scale of the American pizza habit also tells its own story. The United States has tens of thousands of pizza restaurants, ranging from national chains to family shops, where the same oven has been working longer than some customers have been alive. In cities such as New York, Philadelphia, Boston, and New Haven, loyalty to one local style can become almost civic duty. Asking for the best slice may produce directions, childhood memories, and an argument involving someone's uncle. For World Cup visitors, that intensity is unexpectedly charming. They may arrive expecting a careless imitation of European food, then discover a living tradition shaped by immigrant ambition and American confidence. One bite offers familiarity, while the next reveals a thicker layer of history than the melted cheese suggests. The guilt arrives quietly afterward. People who laughed at American pizza from thousands of miles away find themselves standing on a sidewalk, holding a folded slice with both hands and protecting it like important paperwork. At that point, going home without one final stop at the pizza counter begins to feel irresponsible. One pot America. Some European visitors arrive at the World Cup expecting American food to be simple, heavy, and easy to understand after one glance. Then Louisiana places a bowl of gumbo in front of them, and that neat little theory begins sweating harder than a tourist in New Orleans during July. Gumbo looks comforting and familiar from a distance, yet the first spoonful reveals layers of flavor that refuse to fit inside the usual jokes about American cooking. The real attraction comes from depth rather than size. A dark roux made from flour and fat creates the base, while onions, celery, and bell pepper bring sweetness and aroma. Stock, herbs, spices, seafood, chicken, or smoked sausage are added depending on the cook and the region. Nothing tastes separate for long because every ingredient spends time borrowing character from everything around it. The result can be smoky, savory, peppery, earthy, and rich without feeling like someone simply turned every flavor knob to maximum. That slow blending offers a sharp contrast with the version of American cuisine often presented abroad. In cities such as Paris, Brussels, and Copenhagen, food media frequently celebrates dishes with clean lines, restrained portions, and ingredients that remain visually distinct. Gumbo follows another philosophy. It allows the ingredients to crowd together, argue for a while, and eventually become better neighbors. The bowl resembles a New Orleans block party where everyone brought a different family recipe and nobody remembered to keep the music quiet. Its history makes the dish even more American. Louisiana cooking developed through the meeting of African, French, Spanish, Indigenous, Caribbean, and later immigrant traditions. The word gumbo is widely linked to West African terms for okra, while filet powder comes from ground sassafras, leaves used by Choctaw people. French cooking contributed roux-based techniques, and Spanish influence helped shape the region's love of seasoned rice dishes. Gumbo therefore carries centuries of exchange inside one pot without needing a flag planted in every spoonful. This is where visitors begin recognizing what the loudest criticism of American food tends to miss. American cuisine often becomes powerful because the country allows traditions to meet, change, and survive together. In parts of Europe, recipes are protected through strict regional rules, which preserves remarkable quality and identity. Louisiana takes a different route. It treats adaptation as part of the tradition, so one family's gumbo may differ noticeably from the version served 2 towns away, while both remain completely sincere. The patience behind the dish also destroys the idea that Americans always rush their food. A proper roux can require careful stirring for 45 minutes or longer, because a few distracted moments can turn deep brown flavor into a burned pan. The cook stands there watching flour and fat darken slowly, which is about as far from drive-through culture as anyone can travel without leaving the kitchen. For World Cup visitors, that discovery can feel humbling. The country they were told had no serious culinary identity has handed them a dish filled with memory, migration, local pride, and techniques refined over generations. Gumbo does not beg for approval or arrange itself politely for a photograph. It simply waits in the bowl, knowing the second spoonful will settle the argument. After tasting it, some visitors may feel less certain about every confident joke they once repeated. America suddenly looks different when its history arrives warm, fragrant, and served over rice. Cheesesteak won them over. By the time European World Cup visitors reach Philadelphia, many have already realized that American food rarely matches the lazy stereotypes they heard at home. Then a cheesesteak lands in their hands, wrapped in paper, steaming through the bread, and heavy enough to make one wrist ask the other for assistance. Its appeal comes from practical perfection. Thinly sliced beef cooks quickly while staying tender. Onions add sweetness and a faint char. Melted cheese runs through the meat instead of sitting neatly on top, while the long roll keeps everything together without turning lunch into a formal event. This sandwich was designed for people who needed food to work as hard as they did. The cheesesteak is generally traced to South Philadelphia around 1930, when Pat and Harry Olivieri began selling chopped steak sandwiches from a hot dog stand. Cheese came later, but the idea remained wonderfully American. Take affordable ingredients, cook them well, serve them generously, and let the smell advertise the business better than any billboard. European cities have their own proud street foods. Berlin has currywurst, Brussels has fries, and London has filled rolls sold near busy stations. Philadelphia follows the same working city logic, but with a distinctly American sense of abundance. The filling does not sit in a polite little line. It arrives like the grill cook has declared that gravity is somebody else's problem. That generous portion is often mistaken for excess, yet its size has a purpose. Cheesesteaks were made for workers, drivers, sports fans, and anyone whose afternoon had no room for a decorative lunch. The sandwich is substantial because the people eating it plan to keep moving. For European visitors, that changes the conversation. The meal they expected to be greasy and crude turns out to be warm, balanced, deeply local, and surprisingly thoughtful. By the halfway point, the paper wrapper becomes structural equipment, dignity becomes optional, and the old jokes about American food begin sounding badly researched. Sometimes great cuisine does not need a linen napkin. It needs a hot grill, a soft roll, and both hands. Perhaps the biggest surprise was never the size of the portions or the names that sounded strange from across the Atlantic. It was realizing how much American food had been judged without ever being truly tasted. From biscuits and gravy, to barbecue, fried chicken, gumbo, pizza, and cheesesteaks, every plate carried history, generosity, and pride. Which American dish do you think visitors misunderstand most? Share your answer below and subscribe for more stories that reveal the America headlines often miss.